Hello, in this video I want to talk to you about how you can construct state machines in Flowcode. Let me just show you a project that we did that used this technology. So this is a malting machine that I made a few years ago. I started off with a tumble dryer that I bought on eBay for a tenner because it wasn't working. And when I took the back off, you can see there's the induction motor with a fan on it, and as often happens with induction motors, it was just a capacitor that had dried out and needed replacing. And once I'd replaced it, it was fine. So I cut off the fan because I wanted independent control of the fan and the motor. So I stuck another fan on and added a controller to it, and then tidied all the wiring up and everything else. And I added a thermistor to the front. You can see the thermistor there, so that I had a temperature sensor and control of the fan and the motor and the heater separately. Now, the way you make malt is you start off with a load of barley and you soak it in water for a couple of days. There's a picture there of some hops that I grew as well, because I made beer with all of this. So once you've soaked it, you can then put it inside your machine, and there are two phases. There's germinating and then malting. And germinating takes the seeds to the point where what they call the chits here, the little rootlets, are coming out of the individual seeds. And once you've done that, then you have to dry the malt off, and the germination process releases sugars that are then going to be converted into alcohol. And you can see that the project was quite successful. My tumble dryer was full of malted barley, and it was great. So let's show you how this works in terms of the program. And this is a state machine that we've constructed in Flowcode. What I've got here is a simulation, effectively. I've got LED indicators connected to port C of a PIC microcontroller showing the motor, the heater and the fan. I've got a thermistor, and then just a general input-output board with a display that I can use to create the program. And the program's quite complicated. There's quite a lot of routines, as you might imagine. And it starts off by the main routine, just setting up some initialization stuff. And then we're using a couple of switches here to ask whether you want to germinate or whether you want to malt. And whichever decision you make leads you to a state machine. And the state machine is just another macro that you call inside Flowcode. And this is the state machine that we've designed. Now, the malting process and the germinating process are both pretty similar, really. It's about turning the barley perhaps once every couple of minutes and creating a certain temperature. So for germinating, you want about 16 or 17 degrees. For malting, you want about 40 degrees over 8 hours, something like that. And this state machine does both of those with a little bit of programming to alter the functionality between those two functions. And the way it works is there's always an entry point for a state machine. And you go from the entry point into the first state. And the first state is called just right. And you can see the declaration there. You can either call macros on entry into a state, or you can call macros on transitions between states. So in this case, when you enter just right, it calls the macro just right. And if you look at that, what just right does is it alters the heater status and fan status depending on the conditions that have been preset. So in this case, if it's just right and we're malting, but then we turn the fan on, the fan's always on for malting, and then we turn the heater off. If it's germinating, it turns the fan off and the heater off, so the germination is just sort of pretty static. Then we update the display, we get the temperature, and then there's a macro and a timer which does this rotation business every couple of minutes as well. And that's governed by an interrupt. So you can see that what happens is that when you enter the just right state, it runs the just right macro. Once you've entered the just right state, there are a couple of paths the program can follow. And the first path it can follow is just to go back to exactly where it is. And if you double click on the transition here, it tells you that when the temperature is greater than the lowest temperature and the temperature is less than the highest temperature, then do nothing. In other words, when the temperature is just right, keep going round in this just right loop. Conversely, when this transition is go to too hot. So when the temperature is greater than the highest temperature, go to the too hot state. And when you enter the too hot state, it runs the too hot macro. This is the too hot macro. If it's too hot, it basically turns the fan on and the heater off. Similarly to the just right state, there is a condition where we are staying in the too hot state. And we double click on that. So when the temperature is greater than the highest temperature, do nothing. Keep going around that loop. On the other hand, when the temperature has fallen and the temperature is less than the high temperature, then go to this transition back to just right and then run the just right macro. So this shows you how you can easily see or construct state machines to govern a process. And the great thing about it is it's so easy to understand in terms of a diagrammatic format what the construction of your program is. Now you do end up with quite a lot of different macros, but again it's really structured and really easy. So we've got a macro for too cold, a macro for too hot, a macro for just right. So you can see how you can use state machines to construct this system. And of course what we can do is we can simulate this program. So if I press the run button, then the first thing it does is it asks us if we want to molt or germinate. If I press malting there, then we go into the malting mode, get rid of that message, and my temperature at the moment is about 24 degrees. Malting is around 40 degrees. At the moment, the heater and the fan are both on. If I turn the temperature up to 45 degrees, then you'll find that both of those go off. And so you can see that the state machine is working fine. If we do it again, now in this program you choose malting or germinating at the start and it carries on for hours on end, so there's no control to switch between the two. So if we run it again and we choose the germinating option at the start, then the temperature here is set at 56 degrees, that's far too high. If I take it down to say 3 degrees, of course the heater and the fan are on. If I take it to the point where we're just about right at 18 degrees, the heater and the fan go off. So you can see that the system is functioning as per the state diagram. Okay, now there are lots of examples on the wiki of this. So if you want to start constructing state machines, you can go to the wiki and download those and have a play. Okay, thanks for watching.